Hello automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and today I'm going to unbox, get set up, and show you the details about the new Nest Cam that is available for purchase today. So I'm going to get right into opening up this device because I think we're going to spend a lot of time on setup and some other things. So let me just get this opened up and show you guys what's inside. Now, my initial take on this thing is it's massive. I cannot even believe this. I mean, hang on. So let me show you just a size difference, and you know what, I always say size matters, but geez, this is a pretty big difference here. If I just put those up like that, look at the size difference in this thing. That's them sitting at about the same height. This is a mounting plate, so I'm going to be able to pull that off, but you can see the little mounting magnet we used to get here. Oh, they're sticking together. The other thing that I think I noticed right away is just the size of the speaker holes here, or how big of a speaker placement we have on this. So there's a QR code that they want me to keep here, so I might take a picture with a phone on that one, but I'll just peel it off. Ooh, what is that, ASMR? What do we call that? Now, here's your first view. This thing looks wild. Wow. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. There are a couple of other components here on the bottom other than the speaker. So let me show you that. That's where you're going to attach the power cable. This is very, very different than the previous generation, which was physically attached. You can see this is physically attached. I can't remove it. It's one of the most frustrating things that Google did to me with their products, because how do you shoot a product like this? Anyways, you have that. You can see the QR code though is printed physically on the old Nest Cam, and here we have it on that sticker. Now you can also see a bit of mounting hardware sitting right here. And the other thing that I think many of you are going to wonder about, is just like, how strong is that? It's pulling right now, pulling hard. Whoa. So I think one of the big questions that many of you will have is what are the angles that you can, put this in? So here's as far as I can move the mount. I can't get it to 90 degrees. This is about how far I can get it with it still attached. Otherwise, the magnets start repelling each other here, and it doesn't work at all. So it's kind of pushing away now. But as soon as I get to there, I'll do that from a better angle. That's about what I can get. So it's kind of like a spotlight actually at that point. Other first impressions here, I'm not in love with this surface around there, and they even said on the QR code that you're going to get some scratches there. It doesn't matter, but to kind of treat it a little better if you can, just to keep it looking nice. But I'm not in love with this. I feel like I really could scratch it quite easily. Let's get some other things out of the box, see what we did get from Google here. So I do have the little Let's Get Started manual. That's what you're watching this for a little bit anyways. And then I do have a power cable. Now, this is a different adapter, so this is going to be a specialty component. Keep that in mind. So we have just the USB end here, but that's a specialty component. And whenever you have that, that means if you break it, well, you bought a new one, right? Or you need to buy a new camera, you're gonna have to pick at that point. So that's something to keep in mind with this, but I like the feeling of the cable physically. Just like the old Nest speakers, all the old Nest products, they always give you a nice feel to the cable. This is definitely high quality, and you're going to be able to work with it. This is a pretty standard power adapter. I'll check out the specifications on it and make sure that that's up on screen right now. Now, deeper into the box here, we have some of the hardware that we're going to need in order to affix this a few places, because we have the mounting plate, but boy, that's going to roll away. But we don't have the actual physical mounting hardware to put this in our home. So I think you can see here, this is pretty simple stuff. I'm not sure yet if it goes like that. No, I think it would be like that. So you should be screwing through here and through here into your home or into wherever you'd like to mount this. And then this should be sticking on top. And I think, yes, it's going to click in. This is not something that I think would be super hard to get off the side of your house, but it's not going to be real easy either. The easier thing obviously is that they could just pull the camera off and go running with that. But there is that screw-in mounting hardware here, and Google does sell an accessory. Now, just like you would expect, you are getting your mounting hardware here. So I have a couple of screws. They feel almost plastic in places, at least at the top. But I think the body here, or the spine, whatever you'd call it, is metal. But they're gonna hold anyways. You're not moving them a ton of times, and if you are, you can get new screws. But they're of course giving you that if you're not going into a stud. Now, the manual is incredibly basic. It basically tells you to start setup in the Google Home application, and I was hoping it would tell me exactly what each of the two dots you're kind of seeing at the top here are. Now, I would assume that one is a microphone, and it's probably that bottom one, and then the second one above, I think, is the LED, and that will give you all kinds of status information. So if someone's looking at the camera or the camera is uploading to the cloud, these are features that Google has told us about before the device came. Now, one thing to talk about here is this cable is exceedingly short, and that's okay because this is a battery version, but that is, I don't know, 3 feet. I'll measure it after. It might be 4 feet tops, but that is not a long cable, so you got to plan your installation a little bit here. Of course, Google does sell other cabling as accessories for this as well, but you got to know that that's what you're getting out of the box. Now, let me show you, if I can, that going in. Now, you can see that the cable actually is coming forward, or I think that's how this is supposed to go. See how the pins are there, and the pins here, they should be lining up on the pins. So we do have that kind of funny little cable thing going on here. Not sure what the design point of that is just yet. Let's walk through the basic setup here, and it's quite an easy setup, but there are some nuances to this that you'll want to know. Up in the top left of the Google Home application, which you will need on iOS or Android, you're going to hit that plus, and then you're going to hit the setup device. Next, we'll be choosing a new device, so just kind of ignore the other option there, and you'll have to pick from the different Google Home homes you've set up, or you can add a new home and then hit next. Now, it'll go through a little bit of a search to see if it can find the device. It didn't find it for me, but it allows you to pick the type of device you're setting up. So I've chosen camera and Nest Cam battery because that's what I have. Now it's going to request the QR code to be scanned, but if you don't have this, there's actually a code on the bottom or the underside next to the power cable point on your camera that you can actually use to set up the device. So you can tap on skip QR code or skip this step and put that in to get you set up. Google does tell us a few things here, including the temperature rating. It'll go down to -20 Celsius or -4 Fahrenheit and up to 104 Fahrenheit or up to 40 Celsius. Also, don't expect it to be fully waterproof. It's weather resistant. It actually has an IP54 rating. Google always requests if they can use some anonymous data from your device in order to improve their devices and services. You can go ahead and pick that for yourself, and then they're going to ask you to finally plug in the camera. Now, mine has been sitting here for quite a while, but now that it is sitting here, I get to choose indoor or outdoor, so where I'm putting this camera. Once you've chosen that, we're going to move on to the Wi-Fi setup process. Now, it will try and find your camera and then it will look for Wi-Fi devices. If you got stopped here, make sure your phone's Bluetooth is turned on because it will try to connect physically to the Nest camera and then it will go and find the Wi-Fi networks around your home. Obviously, you saw I had to put in my Wi-Fi credentials or the password to my Wi-Fi in my home, and you'll have to do the same thing there. Now we get to choose a room from the Google Home app. You can see I have quite a bit, and then there's some additional ones you can add, or you can choose to add a custom room name, and then you'll hit next. Now it's going and connecting the Nest Cam to your Wi-Fi and it will start downloading an update. Now it's going to give you the ability to see your camera's view and to make sure that it has a good Wi-Fi connection wherever you are mounting it. Now it's asking what we're going to use to mount the camera, and I have the magnetic mount. That's the one that's in the box, but there are those other accessories that you can have a look at. Then you're going to be given a bit of an installation tutorial, and depending on what you're thinking of attaching to, they will give you a little bit different information. Now, the top two buttons were basically the same because you got the same exact video here, but it does help with some of those little details around how you are planning to install it. Then they want you to plan the cable route, and it's important to note that you want to put this about 6.5 feet off the ground. That will help a lot of the recognition features work correctly. So in terms of recognizing people or animals, you want that kind of height to make sure that that happens. Then they're just going to show you some of the basics to physical installation, but in general, this is a really easy install, especially when you're just using the battery component of this device. Things to note is there'll be a green light whenever your camera is active and recording or sending video to the cloud. And then if anyone's looking at the camera's feed, it will blink green. So remember those two things there. The next settings you're going to get are related to video and audio. And if you want it to record video, well, you get 3 hours of event video for free. This doesn't take a subscription, and that does go to Google's cloud, so you can turn on that video recording. Then I turned on both the microphone and audio recording so that I could have two-way conversations with people near the camera, and I could get audio recordings. The next thing that should show up is the ability to add this camera to what are called home and away routines. If you don't have these set up, we do have a video on Automate Your Life that will help you with that, and I'll link that down below. What happens is your phone's location or other sensors that you might have inside of the Google Home application can determine whether you're home or away from home. And you can see it's asking about my current phone. I actually had a different phone just a few weeks ago, and so it's saying, hey, can I switch the location? But for you, it'll probably ask if they can use your phone location for presence sensing, like it's asking me here. So go ahead and enable that, and then I'll show you the features that you're going to get access to when you use that phone location, and you can always turn it off later. They'll want you to confirm your address and your physical location with a map feature here within the application. So if you have to move around that little pin, go ahead and move it to make sure they get it exactly right. Now, this is the feature you're going to get. You can automatically turn on and off the camera. So turn it on when you leave and turn it off when you come home. And then you can also get notifications only when you're away by turning on that little component, which is very useful for not getting notifications when you're at home and don't need them. If you add Nest Aware, and there's a couple of different subscription levels, then you'll get some extra features. Now, the very first one that you would notice is familiar faces. And this only shows up with Nest Aware. On top of that, the emergency 911 phone calls directly from the app and the 24/7 video history, as well as longer event recording. Remember, you're only getting that 3-hour event recording otherwise, but now you can get 30 or 60 days. And just to clarify what Google means by 3-hour event history, if you go back greater than 3 hours, you will not find any history. So it's not a total of 3 hours of footage, it is 3 hours ago. Now that we have it set up, let's go through the app a little bit. So you saw I went into cameras and you saw that a couple of cameras popped up. The top one's my new Nest Cam, and you can see there's a turn off or turn on button in case your camera has been turned off. And then you can tap in and see the camera feed itself. Plus we have a number of controls. Down at the bottom, there's the talk and listen in button that allows you to communicate with people on the other side of the camera. Then we have the History tab, which allows you to quickly navigate between different events that you've had. Now we have the ability to scroll through the timeline. So when I tap Event Details, this is where you can download the new clip or the clip that's been recorded to your smartphone or to your tablet. And you can find out a few more details like how long it is and what type of trigger caused this to be recorded. Then you can go to the full details or the full history page, and then you can see all the different things that have occurred. And when you go this route, it has filtered, and you can see it filtering by garage camera at the top of the screen as I scroll through here. The other page is called More, and you'll have more options if you've chosen to get Nest Aware and you're in the US, because you'll have that emergency 911 ability to call here. Back at the home page, there's another way to get to the history page, and it's more of your entire Google Home history. You can see I just tapped on the bottom, and now it's showing me recent events. I can tap into any of these notifications and see what had occurred during the event. Now here's the full history page, and it won't be filtered whatsoever when you go in that way. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that I can tell you with routines right now. Within the home and away routines, you already saw me configure that. This camera will show up and it will be able to be turned on or turned off based on what you're doing. I found mine at the bottom of my home and away routines, and you can see there's a little bit of a special page being developed here that is really only for these Nest cams. But when I went through the routines, even when I looked for a trigger or an action, I didn't have any of those available with the Nest Cam on the launch day here. And I even tried to put in a custom command. I could not get my camera to turn off or turn on using a routine. I tried many different things. So unfortunately, right now, I don't think that can be done, but go ahead and try it out nowadays. Maybe there's a new feature. When I first got my Nest cameras, one of the things that struck me was just how much cable I was going to have to deal with. But this is the opposite problem, and I'm not sure I like this opposite problem. Now, that cable is barely long enough for anything, and I think most people are going to end up needing the extension or the outdoor weatherproof cable here. You're gonna need something else, so you're gonna have to look at those accessories. It is so short, and when I've kind of put any sort of tension on it, the magnetic component to that cable, it kind of magnetizes in there. It's not strong enough to hold it in, and I've pulled it out a couple of times. Now, to correct this issue, I had a pretty simple idea. This won't work for outdoor installs, but I did try out an extension USB cable, so that just allowed me to get the power connected in. You have a few other options though, because honestly, the magnet on the back of the mount here for the Nest Cam is very strong. You won't be able to stick the camera directly to surfaces, but I stuck it in a lot of places, including even on a furnace duct, and tested these for a long period of time. It can work this way, but you want to think about people being able to come up and just steal it. So you might want to look at the anti-theft mount option that Google has. The other thing that you'll want to consider is the fact that when you take off that mounting plate, you'll watch my feed for the camera actually disappear. This is a privacy feature, so for when you bring in the camera to charge it, if you're just using it from a battery perspective, well, then it will stop that feed immediately, and then when you put the mount back on, it'll turn it back on. Now, if you want to get rid of that, inside of the device information, you're actually able to change to a different type of mount at any time. And when you do that, it will remove the requirement for it to be magnetically connected or magnetically attached to something else. The settings that you have available for things like the video screen and audio as well are pretty substantial. Now, what I mean by that is you have a lot of different controls. So the video history, the wake up sensitivity, and the maximum event length. All of those are really great controls that you have access to. Now, what I'll tell you about all of those and the audio settings that you set is that they can all be blown away simply by changing the battery profile. So I had kind of set up some custom settings, and then I went and I chose the default here inside of the battery usage page. And when I did that, it actually blew away everything that I had done, or most of the settings that I had done. So if you're planning to deal with it on a battery or on a battery installation, well, then you're probably going to want to use that bigger setting there that kind of overwrites everything. All of the settings I'm going to show you are under the video section of the camera settings. Video history is very simple. You can either choose the free 3-hour event video history or not have any video history, which just means you'll be able to look at it on the live view mode. Wake up sensitivity is actually based on a PIR sensor that exists on the Nest camera. So keep in mind that's what you're adjusting when you adjust the sensitivity. The next thing is the maximum event length, which allows you to go up to 3 minutes. And what that means is you would record for 3 minutes every time an event occurred, and you would get all of that footage. You can also adjust the video quality, and you can go up to max on the camera, which is 1080p at 30 frames a second. There's a night vision mode that you can make an adjustment on, but I just leave that on auto, and the status light brightness on the front of the camera. Plus, there's the ability to rotate the image 180 degrees if you have this mounted upside down. To put this lightly, the camera's microphone and the speaker on it, they are probably the best I've ever heard from any camera I've ever reviewed, and that is saying something. This is a really impressive two-way communication device, and I kind of expected that when I looked at it, and you almost think that Google is a smart speaker company that knows how to work with microphones at this point, because both the speaker and the microphone are fantastic. This is me speaking very quietly. Here's me yelling. No, I'm not yelling. Now I'm yelling. That's a pretty good speaker and mic.
Hi. How are you? That's pretty good. Oh, and the green light. Hi there.
There are 4 different zones that you can set, and actually there's a fifth zone. So they give you control of the different zones, and then you can make adjustments within each zone for the different event types and the different notifications that you're going to want here. There is also a outside or out of the zones zone. So you effectively have 5 different zones that you can use with your Nest camera. When you go into the events section, this is where you can control a lot of the different notifications you're going to get, and you can actually add different zones that you can build those notifications around. So you saw me tap to add a zone, and now I can move all of the different points on this, what was a box, and then hit the check mark when I'm happy with the zone. If I go back into that zone, I can make a few adjustments. Number one, I can change all of the different events that I would like to be recorded, and then I can add or remove notifications for each. And if I touch the top right 3 dots within any one of these zones, I can delete the zone or I can edit the zone. Now, when I go back to the events page, I can add additional zones. This is how you get up to the 5 different zones that you can make and adjust. There's also a notification segment in the settings that plays into this, and here's where you can adjust the push notifications, whether or not you're going to get any of those, the away only notification setting that we did earlier in today's video, and you can see I can turn on the different motion events in general, or the different types of events in general. When you do get notifications, they're going to come in on your phone as long as you've allowed that in your phone's settings. And once you are inside of the application and tap in, you can go and see the event details. And you'll notice that it shows you what was seen or heard, and it can be multiple things throughout the duration of the event. Now, I want to show you just some of the quality that you're getting out of this camera. This is actually taken directly from the Nest camera as it just stood or sat up there, and you can see that you can get quite far. I'm about 15 to 20 feet away at this point, and there you just saw a notification come up. But the quality is very good, and one of the big questions is this in real time? So I thought I would do a couple of tests there. Look at how quick the response is on this camera. It's almost instantaneous. You really can have two-way conversations, and I even tested this through my Nest Hub. So here's the new Nest camera. I'm going to press my garage door opener, and you can see just how quick and how smooth the feed is through the camera here and all the way onto the Nest Hub. And just to give you a comparison of this, here's the older Nest Cam going through a very similar thing. And what you're going to notice are jitters and jumps. And it even took an extra second to get the garage started. And then, yeah, you can see the garage door just moving down ever so slowly and jumping. And of course, we need to talk about overall quality. Now, you can zoom on a Nest Hub, and I showed you earlier that you can hear the sound through Nest Hubs, and of course you can hear through the app using the listen and talk feature. Now, here is a true recording of the Nest camera that I pulled directly, instantly downloaded it, and I think you can see that it is handling the backlighting very well, and I'm going to show you some comparisons later. Plus, you're actually able to hear a lot of the sound. Now, this is zooming in to over 430%. What I was really impressed with there was how the microphone managed the big variation in sound, and we didn't get a bunch of static or noise that we couldn't understand. Plus, I'm really liking the fact that I can see most of the car all the way out. Obviously, some reflections are pretty hard for it to manage, and I think this situation with such big differences in light are really hard. But when I stand outside, you can actually still see my face. Now that's 500% zoomed, and you could still make out my face at some level. It's the same up to about 15 to 20 feet outside at nighttime. Now, whenever I moved in and out of the light, it really managed this well, and actually it seemed to do a little less good in lower lights. Now, here's a Wise Cam outdoor by comparison. This is how it's managing the difference in light. You can see that backlight is really washing me out, and I think this is indicative of the work that Google has done. Now, inside of a darker space, it's actually doing really well, and I like a lot of how the Wise Cam looks. But to give you another comparison, the older Nest Cam, this is just a screen recording. It's not the actual physical recording, but this is what you would get. You can see it's a little bit washed out. And now here's the new Nest Cam in comparison. Again, I can make out my face. I can make out that I'm even speaking. And I think the quality is really fantastic on this device. And you're going to get a lot of good security out of this. Now, if you'd like to watch some additional camera reviews to get some more comparison, go ahead and check out the playlist we've got on screen. Otherwise, thanks for watching today. And of course, don't hate, automate.